Hi.
Hi there, welcome back to English for Specific Purposes, B2 Plus level. We are your hosts. I'm Mr. Daryl.
And I'm Miss Tatia. მოგესალმებით. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი ტერილია. დღევანდელი გაკვეთილის თემა კი კვლავ ბიზნესია. Mr. Daryl, we are going to talk about business again, but I think that we have to look at our agenda first. And what is on our agenda today?
We'll lead off with an introductory discussion, and then we'll look at some vocabulary necessary for the reading text. From there, we will move to the grammar and summarize everything with a bit of homework at the end.
Very interesting. გაკვეთილს როგორც ყოველთვის მცირე შესწავლით დავიწყებთ, შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს, რომელიც ბიზნესთან იქნება დაკავშირებული, ამის შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ასევე ბიზნესთან დაკავშირებულ ტექსტს, ამას მოყვება გრამატიკა, შემდეგ შევაჯამოთ გაკვეთილს და დავასრულებთ საშინაო დავალებით. Let's get started, Mr. Daryl. Mr. Daryl, before we start the lesson, I have a question to you. Have you ever heard about corporate culture?
I have heard that term used often.
And do you know what it is?
Let me take a guess. It's the beliefs and the behaviors that guide how people in a certain company will behave.
Yes, this is set of beliefs and behaviors maybe shared within the company, and this is how managers and employees interact with each other and how they address external business transactions, right? And the corporate culture is different in every company, and I think that you should be aware of what kind of corporate culture is in the company you have just entered or just started working for, in order not to get in an embarrassing situation, right?
Well, you know it so well. I wonder if you haven't had a business on your own at certain point to build up this experience.
No, by the way, but I have been part of different organizations with different corporate cultures, so I know exactly what it is and how it works. Okay, now let's look at the first set of vocabulary. Let's see what we have here. I think that we might have some interesting words today. And the first word we have is transparent. Transparent is an adjective, and in Georgian is translated as გამჭვირვალე. So how would you define that word, Mr. Daryl?
Transparent in this business context. These are businesses and financial transactions that are done in an open way without any secrets, so that people can trust the business and be in a fair and honest way.
Yeah, everybody knows what's going on kind of situation, right? So transparent, it's an adjective, and in Georgian it means გამჭვირვალე. And here we have an example. Our aim is to create a transparent market that rewards genuine innovation and risk.
Really good.
And what is the next word we have, Mr. Daryl?
It's an adjective, and it's siloed. Siloed. Now, the definition is when you are separated from other people or things, quartered off.
Siloed. It's an adjective, and in Georgian it's translated as განცალკევებული, განდგომილი. Siloed. And we have an example.
Here's the example. Working in a big company, you become very siloed, and it was easy to lose touch with the real world.
Yeah. And the next word we have is biased. Biased is an adjective, and in Georgian it's translated as მიკერძოებული. And how would you define that word, Mr.
This is when it's kind of a negative word. When you show unreasonable preference or dislike of something based on your own personal opinion.
Okay, so I think that it's very awkward and kind of not very good situation when you are biased. Yeah. Oh,
it can interfere with business decision making. If you're biased, you can't see the situation objectively.
Yeah, you're right. So biased, it's an adjective, and in Georgian it means მიკერძოებული. And here we have an example. Newspapers gave a biased report of the meeting. It means that they didn't say the truth.
Yeah, I don't like, especially in this situation, the newspapers being biased. I don't like that situation.
Okay, they take some preference, right?
Yeah, and they don't maybe report the truth as it should be.
Yes, you're right. And what is the next word, Mr. Daryl?
Nimble. It's an adjective, nimble. Here's the definition: a quick and exact movement in thought. Being agile. That means being sort of
flexible. Maybe.
Flexible, yeah.
Okay. Nimble is an adjective, and in Georgian it means moknili. And we have an example.
Yeah, here's an example. Zyrtec is a small, nimble company that is focused on innovation.
So it means that it's a flexible company.
It can change with the situation.
Change, and adapt to the situation, right? And the next word we have is impartial. So this might be the antonym of biased, right? So impartial is an adjective, and in Georgian it means miuqerdzoebeli, impartial. So how would you define that word, Mr. Daryl?
Exactly as you said, just not supporting any side in an argument.
Okay. Impartial, it's an adjective, and in Georgian it means miuqerdzoebeli. And here we have an example. A trial must be fair and impartial. And I think that it's time to check how well we remember the words and how well we can use them. So we will see sentences on the screen with gaps, and we have to choose an appropriate word for the gap. And can I be the first?
You definitely should, I think. They claim that the settlement was in favor of corporate clients.
Yeah, if something was in favor of somebody or something, I think that the word there should be biased. So the sentence would sound this way. They claimed that the settlement was biased in favor of corporate clients. And now it's time for you to try. I will read the sentence for you. Reporters must be, then there is a gap, and not show political bias. So if you don't show political bias, you are
impartial.
Biased. You are impartial. And you're right. So how does the sentence
Reporters must be impartial and not show political bias.
That's right, Mr. Daryl.
Here's
now
yours.
It's my turn.
The company has to make its accounts and operations as possible.
Yes, I think that the word here would be transparent, and the sentence would sound this way. The company has to make its account and operations as transparent as possible. And I will read a sentence for you. Without communication between those, then there is a gap. Departments, many people will take on the same task. So it means that the departments are separated. They don't have good communication. So it means that they are
siloed.
And you're right.
Siloed.
And how does the sentence
Without
sound?
communication between those siloed departments, many people will take on the same tasks.
And you're right, Mr. And this is the last one for me, and I will read the sentence as a whole. So self-awareness of roles and of the feelings evoked in interpersonal encounters is increasingly critical for the nimble entrepreneur. Okay, and we have finished. We know some words connected with this corporate culture, and we are going to read the text and find out again some interesting things about corporate culture. But before we read the text, I think that we have to learn some more words, yeah? Okay, let's look at our second set of vocabulary, and the first word we have is recruit. I think that we've learned this word as a verb. To recruit is to hire someone, but this time we are going to learn this word as a noun. Recruit is a noun, and in Georgian it means ახალი თანამშრომელი, ახლა დაყვანილი თანამშრომელი, okay? So how would you define that word, Mr. Durr?
Well, it's a new member of an organization. For example, in the army.
Yes,
they're often referred to as army recruits.
Okay. And here we have a good example. About 14% of new recruits are from ethnic minorities. Okay, this means that 14% of those people who have just been hired or employed are from ethnic minorities, which is a good thing, right?
More positivity.
Okay, and what is the next word, Mr. Gerald?
It's a noun. Objective, and the definition, which I'll give you, is something you plan to do or achieve.
Your goal, your aim.
Exactly.
Okay. Objective is a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as mizani. Objective, mizani. And here we have an example. The objective of starting a business is to become a success on your own terms. It's a good objective, right?
It's definitely a good one.
Okay, and what is the next word?
The next word is evaluate. Evaluate, it's in the verb form, to evaluate.
And the meaning is, I think, to assess, right?
Yeah, exactly. A good word. To judge or calculate the quality, importance, amount, or value of something.
Okay, very interesting. Evaluate is a verb, and in Georgian is translated as shepaseba. Evaluates.
And here's a good example sentence. It's impossible to evaluate these results without knowing more about the research methods employed.
Yeah, you're right, and a very good example, I think. And the next word we have is subtle.
An adjective, very good word.
Yeah.
This is when you are not loud, bright, or noticeable, or obvious in any way. You're kind of much more low-key.
Okay. Subtle is an adjective, and in Georgian is translated as nazi, sheumchneveli. Okay, and here we have an example. There is a subtle difference between these two plants. So it means that there is almost no
very small difference.
Okay, and what is the next word, Mr. Darrell?
It's a verb, to pick up. To pick up.
It's a phrasal verb, I think, right?
Yep. And the definition is to learn a new skill or language even.
Without much effort, I think.
By practicing it rather than by being taught it.
Yes. Okay, for example, when you go to some foreign country, you pick up the language without a teacher, just from the environment,
That's precisely what I did with Georgia.
Yeah, what you did,
I
right.
didn't have a teacher.
Yes, you have never had a teacher. So you picked up Georgian.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so pick up is a verb, and in Georgian it means atviseba. And here we have a very good example. When you live in a country, you soon pick up the language, like you did. Okay, next word we have is
clue.
A clue.
It's a noun, and it means it's some sign or information that helps you find the answer to a problem, question, or mystery. And often it's Sherlock Holmes that's looking for clues.
Maybe hints. Is it a
hints? Yeah, hints. Which point to the answer.
Okay. Clue is a noun, and in Georgian is translated as minishneba. And we have a very good example here. I'm never going to guess the answer if you don't give me a clue. Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, if you are given a clue, then it's easier to answer the question, okay? Well, and the next, oh no, we have finished with the words, which is very good. It means that we are going to read the text. But just before we read the text, let's just talk about corporate culture. What types of corporate culture do you know? For example, I know clan culture, and it is a culture where the company employees are like a family. Everything is transparent.
To each other.
Yes, they have very close relationship with each other, and this is called clan, like type of corporate culture. So, have you ever heard of any other types of corporate culture?
Through research, there are certain types, of course, and we've got a few on the screen as well. For example, there's team first corporate culture.
Yeah, I know this one. This is also like when companies like the members of all the employees are like a team, and a lot of effort is made on team building activities and raising team spirit. So this is called team first corporate culture.
Sounds like a good situation.
Yeah.
We have other situations as well. Elite corporate culture, horizontal corporate culture, conventional corporate culture, and progressive corporate culture.
Yeah, very interesting, and just we could talk endlessly about it, but I think that it's time to move on to the text. Maybe the text will give us some interesting information about corporate culture. Let's get started. So scientists put a group of 5 monkeys in a cage. At the top of a ladder, they hung a banana. As soon as the monkey climbed the ladder, he was showered with cold water. The group soon gave up trying to reach the bananas. Next, the scientists disconnected the cold water and replaced one of the 5 monkeys. When the new monkey tried to climb the ladder, the others immediately pulled him down and gave him a good beating. The new monkey learned quickly and enthusiastically joined beating the next new recruit. One by one, the 5 original monkeys were replaced. Although none of the new group knew why, no monkey was ever allowed to climb the ladder.
Who knew you could learn so much from monkeys?
Yes.
Like the monkeys in the experiment, every culture and organization has its unwritten rules. These rules are probably the single most influential factor on the work environment and employee happiness. Though many work cultures embrace positive values such as loyalty, solidarity, efficiency, quality, personal development, and customer service, all too often they reinforce negative attitudes. In many businesses, an unwritten rule states that working long hours is more important than achieving results. In one medium-sized company, the boss never leaves the office until it's dark. Outside in the car park, he checks to see who is still working and whose office windows are dark. Staff who risk leaving earlier now leave their office lights on all night.
So other common unwritten rules state that the boss is always right, even when he is wrong. If you are not at your desk, you are not working. Nobody complains because nothing ever changes. Women, ethnic minorities, and the over 50s are not promoted. The customer is king, but don't tell anyone because management are more interested in profitability.
Often nobody really knows where these unwritten rules come from, but new recruits pick them up very quickly despite the best intentions of induction and orientation programs. The way staff speak to management, to customers, and to each other gives subtle but strategic clues to an organization's culture, as do the differences between what is said, decided, or promised, and what actually gets done. New staff quickly learn when their ideas and opinions are listened to and valued, and when it's better to keep them to themselves. They learn which assignments and aspects of their performance will be checked and evaluated, and whose objectives and instructions they can safely ignore. Monkeys may be more direct, but work culture is every bit as effective at enforcing unwritten rules as a good beating.
Okay, it was very interesting, okay? And that's how these rules, unwritten rules, spread within the company, right? And sometimes they are not very positive. Sometimes they might be positive, like loyalty, friendship, etc., support and cooperation. But sometimes some just not very negative things come in. Okay, I think that it's time to practice and to find out how well we remember the text. For that, you will see the sentences on the screen, and we have to decide whether the statements are true or false and provide the proof sentences from the text, okay? So the first one for you, Mr. Daryl. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. So the experiment on monkeys demonstrated how rules are set and enforced in the community. So what do you think? Is it true or false?
You read that part, and I remember that it is true.
And you're right, Mr. Daryl.
And the text being, although none of the new group knew why, no monkey was ever allowed to climb the ladder.
And now it's my turn.
Work cultures only embrace positive values, such as loyalty, solidarity, efficiency, quality, personal development, and so on.
And I know for sure that this is false, because not only positive things are embraced. We talked about some negative ones too, so the statement is false, because though many work cultures embrace positive values such as loyalty, solidarity, efficiency, quality, personal development, and customer service, all too often they reinforce negative attitudes. Mm-hmm. So the next one for you, Mr. Daryl. Now, this is the statement. In many businesses, working long hours is more appreciated than achieving good results.
That seems to be a very common thing, and it is mentioned in the text. I'm going to say true.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Daryl.
Here's the line that says exactly that. In many businesses, an unwritten rule states that working long hours is more important than achieving results.
Yeah, a lot of people stay in the office for a long time, but the result is the same. But just the person who leaves early or maybe at the proper time is considered to be a bad worker.
And sometimes you go home and you continue working anyway.
Yes. And by the way, there was a passage in the text that some people leave the lights turned on in order to just create create the feeling that the person is sitting there and working. So this is a quite negative thing, right, about corporate culture. Well, the next statement is for me, as I know.
New employees learn the rules set in the company very fast.
And this is true. It was, especially if we take into consideration the example of the monkeys, okay? Oh, everybody learns it very easily, okay? So I remember we read, new staff quickly learn when their ideas and opinions are listened to and valued, and when it's better to keep them to themselves. so the statement was true. And I think that we have finished with the reading part, and it's time for grammar. Again, today's revision, we are going to revise past tenses, right? And
yes,
the first tense we are going to revise is past simple. So we use past simple for repeated and habitual actions in the past, also for general truths about the past, permanent situations and states in the past, the main events in a story, the present in conditional sentences, and the present after which, its time, would rather, etc. And a few examples might be Sony and Philips invented the CDs in the early 1980s. So this is a fact which happened in the past, finished in the past, has no connection with present. And one more maybe, did the ancient Egyptians have more advanced technology? So it's again talking about past, a very far past, right? Okay, so the next one is
the past continuous.
So when do we use past continuous, Mr. Terrell?
A very useful form. It's used for actions in progress at a particular moment in the past, actions in progress around a particular moment in the past, temporary situations and series of actions in the past, changing and developing situations in the past, annoying or amusing past habits, usually with always, and background information in a story, as well as actions in progress over a period of time. Now here's an example, maybe two examples. Were you talking to the manager when I called you? And at that moment of being called, he was in the process of talking to the manager, or maybe he wasn't. But this person is wondering about that. Here's a second example. When she was young, Tina was always taking things apart to see how they worked. Now this, as you can see, is an annoying or an amusing past habit. When she was young, people were amused to see Tina always taking things apart to put them back together and figure out how things work.
So the next tense is past perfect simple. So when do we use past perfect simple? We use past perfect simple for situations and states before the past. Completed actions before a moment in the past, a series of actions continuing up to moment in the past, completed actions where the important thing is the result at a moment in the past. So I usually explain it like when we have two past actions, the earlier one usually is expressed using past perfect simple. And let's look at some examples. When Dimitra called, I had managed to fix her computer. So one action was in the past, he called, and before that moment I had already fixed the computer. And one more maybe, by the time of his death, Thomas Edison had invented a number of things that changed everyday life. So one moment was when he died in the past, and before that moment he had already invented like life-changing things, right? Okay, and the next tense we're going to talk about is
the past perfect continuous, related to what you were saying, but in the continuous form. This is used for actions and situations continuing up to a moment in the past or just before a moment in the past. Here are examples. She had been working in this company over 10 years before she moved to the United States.
Okay, and here I think the focus is on the duration rather than the result, right? Okay, nice. And I think that we have finished. We have revised all the past tenses, and it's time to practice. We'll see the sentences on the screen with the gaps and the verbs given in brackets. So we have to put the verbs in the right form, right past form. Okay, and I'm ready to
get the sentence. Here's your sentence. The ambulance, now there's a gap. By the time the reporters, there's a gap, to the scene of the accident.
Okay, here we have two past actions, and I think that the earlier one was that the ambulance left the scene. So I would say the sentence the following way: the ambulance had left by the time the reporters got to the scene of the accident. So just one action was that the reporters got to the accident, but the ambulance left before that past moment. Okay, nice. Now let me just give you this sentence and you will try, okay? So we and then we have a verb do. Everything we had to do by 5, so then we have verb decide to leave the office.
So it seems that they finished the work that they had by 5, and then they left the office. I would do it this way, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
We had done everything we had to do by 5, so we decided to leave the office.
And you're right, Mr. Gerald, because at 5 o'clock, just before 5, before it got 5, they had already done everything. So that's why we have used here past perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and next one is for me, I think, and I'm ready.
How long, now you have a gap with the verb wait, before the manager turned up?
Yeah, so manager turned up, this is one past moment, and before that time there was long period of waiting, and I want to focus on this period, and I would say it like this: how long had you been waiting before the manager turned up? So I have used past perfect continuous here. And there is the last sentence for you, Mr. Daryl, and I'll read it for you. So Amy, then we have a verb read. So she didn't see me walking past. So what do you think? How would you say this sentence correctly, Mr. Daryl?
Well, Amy seems to have been in a situation doing something at that moment when I walked past. I would have to say it this way: Amy was reading at the time, so she did not see me walking past.
And you're right, Mr. Daryl. I think that it was very successful way of revising past tenses. We all remember how to form different past tenses, and unfortunately it's time to finish our lesson and it's time to wrap it up.
Remember, Ms. Tatya, we looked at vocabulary, then we looked at the reading text about corporate culture and the monkeys, and we finished off with a grammar look at past tenses.
Okay, I think that it was very, very interesting. And so what about homework, Mr. Daryl? Are we going to have any homework for today?
Yes, you're right. It's a good idea to have some homework. And here's your question for today. Write a paragraph about what an ideal corporate culture might look like.
Oh, very interesting.
And
where should it be uploaded, Mr. Daryl?
To the address you see on the screen right now.
Okay, very interesting. I think that we don't have to say anything else today, and we have to say goodbye to the audience and wait for the next lesson.
And I think we have learned enough now to start our own business.
Yeah, I think we are ready.
If we wanted to.
Okay, and I think that we are going to change the topic for the next lesson, and I think that we are going to talk about education, right? Which is a very interesting topic as well.
Sounds very exciting, sounds very relevant as well.
Yes. So,
until next time, goodbye.
So, stay with us and keep on learning. Bye.